Call it a pulse check game, call it a heart check game, call it whatever you would like to, Miami Dolphins fans, because this one may not have been all around pretty. It may not have been the win that we wanted against this team. It may not have felt even completely deserved, but at the end of the day, we got it done with that overtime victory against the Jets. Now 6-7 on the season. Tua Tagovailoa remains undefeated against said Jets as a starting quarterback. And yes, our slim playoff hopes remain alive for at least another week. Dolphins fans, we will cover it all here today on the Fins Up Network in just a second. But as always, in these recap videos, would love to hear from you. Your thoughts on the Dolphins win, your top takeaways from this win, go ahead, drop them in the comments. And let's start this video kind of at the end because, man, I tell you what, like I said, heart check, pulse check. My heart is still feeling this one, Dolphins fans. What a great win. Like I said, I almost feel like we didn't necessarily deserve it because of a couple of things that happened specifically on the defensive side of the ball, which we will get to. But first and foremost, huge, absolutely huge props to Malik Washington. Think just a week ago, he muffs a punt. He essentially gives the Packers a touchdown to begin that game. Just the whole game just kind of felt a little bit lost after that point in time. But man, does he do his share to help get us into overtime because we had just given up that go-ahead field goal, which we're going to come back to here in a second. But Malik Washington takes this kickoff back 45 yards, takes it to our 46-yard line, which basically makes it possible to the point where we need what? 15, 20 yards to get this thing into field goal range. So he does that. We hit Tyreek for 14. Waddle later gets us our final 6 yards. We have an incompletion that kills the clock. And reading body language, it's almost like Tyreek Hill wanted to catch that ball. I am beyond thankful for that incompletion. In hindsight, we almost should have just went up to the line of scrimmage, let a bunch of time run, and then just killed the clock and kicked the field goal. Running the play there and throwing it over the middle of the field, that far down the field, Tyreek catches that ball with maybe 10 to 12 seconds left. We got to hustle up. Not saying it's not doable, but I will take the incompletion there in that point in time, which sets up that 52-yard field goal. And huge props to Jason Sanders, the field goal unit. We had a new long snapper today as well, putting that one home, forcing overtime. But man, as soon as we hit overtime, the person who didn't catch a pass the entire game, a guy that we've become seeing a staple of our offense over the last month, absolutely takes over. And Mike McDaniel does something that we really didn't see much of all in that game. Not only targeted passes to Jonnu Smith, back-to-back tight end screens with Jonnu takes what? 1 for 20, 1 for 14. I know we knocked Mike McDaniel. Sorry, my voice is kind of gone from this game. We knock him a little bit here and there for his play calling. Don't get me wrong, but hats off to drawing up those screen passes on back-to-back plays. It kind of sounds crazy, but if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, you don't often see a tight end screen called, let alone twice in a game, let alone on back-to-back plays. There's zero chance the Jets expected that, and that obviously happened to be the case when you go for 20 and 14. We get the ball down. Excuse me, like I said, should have brought some water to today's or celebratory beer. I wasn't thinking today. Gets the ball all the way down to midfield. We proceed to throw passes to Achane for 4, Tyreek for 9, Achane again for 10. We get a run from Achane for a 3, and then Jonnu, yes, does it again. He strikes again. He runs his route. He starts on the right side of the formation, runs his right route all the way across the field, gets over to the left side, and Tua throws an absolute dime where the defender cannot touch the ball. It's only Jonnu's ball. And if you rewatch that play as well, I don't remember which Jets defender it was, closing in on Tua, makes contact with Tua. He stays in there and delivers an absolute beauty for the game winner. So no catches on a single target during regulation. Then he goes ahead and finishes 3 for 44 and the game-winning touchdown in overtime. But tell you what, how about that offense? How about the play calls? How about the touch on those passes and outright execution in overtime when you're to the point there where you score a touchdown, you win the game. You never give the ball back to Aaron Rodgers, who we'll talk about here in a second. We didn't really want him getting the ball back. This drive, absolute masterclass against a pretty fairly statistical good defense as well. All right. I said I was going to come back to a particular play there, but how about Kendall Fuller being able to make sure Jets wide receiver Davante Adams goes out of bounds towards the end of regulation, preserve enough time for us to make something happen after the Jets go up 3. Now, I know what you're saying, and I do agree with this as well. A lot of this is chalked up to just a simply outright bad play by Davante Adams. He's a veteran in this league. He should have known. Catch the ball, get down while you're still in bounds. There was only 52 seconds left when the New York Jets kicked that field goal. If Davante Adams stays in bounds, if they get to run more time off the clock, they kick that field goal, we are essentially toast. We have no more timeouts at that point in time. So yes, a very low football IQ from Adams there, but I'm going to also give some credit to our defense, to Kendall Fuller, not letting him get down, taking him and moving him out of bounds as well. A very underrated play. I don't care who you want to give the credit to. All right. I will say that Miami's defense, sorry for this. They showed up a couple of times when it mattered. That's probably the nicest thing that I can say. Zach Sieler gets a sack in the fourth quarter to force the Jets to punt for the first time in the entire day. So great play, but everything leading up to that, no punts from the Jets. Back our statistical rankings coming into this. We should not be letting the Jets do that. The defense also did force a 3-and-out on that very next possession as well. But like I said, we made a lackluster New York Jets offense. At times looked borderline elite. It's like they had never seen Aaron Rodgers play before. You don't need to watch too much Aaron Rodgers tape to know that if you're playing off of his slot wide receiver, he's going to take a shotgun snap and fire it to that guy and let that guy create after the catch. It's like we never seen that before. We weren't ready whatsoever. Jalen Ramsey was not locked down today by any means. Didn't have a great game. He did have some nice plays. There was a very nice PBU, which he almost picked off with one hand on that sideline ball to Garrett Wilson. But I tell you what, Garrett Wilson, who we saw him end up getting matched up with quite often in this game, he finishes with 7 catches, excuse me again, 114 yards as well. We also allowed a 17-yard touchdown on the ground to a rookie running back where I'd have to look back. He either didn't get touched or he hardly got touched on that play. We get an Emmanuel Ogbah sack earlier in the game. What happens? Zach Sieler is called for holding, a play where, yes, he did hold, but man, you never see that called. So not only did we not get the sack on that one, I believe it was the very next play, Aaron Rodgers hits Davante Adams for 35 yards. Davante Adams ends up going 9 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown as well on the day. We did end up with the 3 sacks, but man, prior to those sacks, tell me when we got some pass rush. We said, get pressure up the middle on Aaron Rodgers. The guy can't move all that well. We should be able to eat him alive. Before that, we couldn't do anything. When he was flushed from the pocket, run at this guy. We were falling for his little pump fakes, the same fakes that Josh Allen does and makes plays. We were falling for Aaron Rodgers, 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. He'd end up making a play out of that. I believe what the announcement said, it was Aaron Rodgers' first game with over 300 passing yard game since I believe it was like 2021. Feel free in the comments to correct me if I was wrong on that, but he went for 339 yards on the day. Tell you what, we've got to play much better defensively for the rest of the season. Not breaking any news there. If we're going to put a win streak together, be actual playoff contenders, we got to play much better defensively. We got too many wide receivers for the Jets running absolutely free down the field. Whether it was our guys falling, getting hit by double moves, that was happening too much. The lack of pass rush early, consistently throughout the game. Ooh, that was brutal, to say the least. Whether we blitzed or didn't, we were not getting home. And quite honestly, at the end of the day, I've said it before, too much just making a pedestrian offense looking like one of the best in the league. We can't do this against the Texans. Let's put it that way. Let us talk about that performance of quarterback one. Thanks for bearing with me. We're going to struggle through this one, Dolphins fans, but it was a hard-earned, well-deserved win at this point in time. Tua goes 33 of 47, 331 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he's got those zeros again. We love those zeros at the end of his stat line. No interceptions, no sacks taken. And we talked about this in the preview video this week against the Jets specifically. They're a defense that plays a little bit more man than what we're used to seeing. They play a little bit more single high safety than what teams have been doing against us. We talked about the idea of Sauce Gardner not being able to go, and lo and behold, he wasn't able to go as well. We said this could be a breakout game for Tyreek and Tua in this game. Well, I would say today, especially before overtime, was kind of more along the lines of what we got used to seeing from the Dolphins in the first couple of years under Mike McDaniel. What do I mean? More Tyreek, more Jaylen Waddle. Tyreek goes 10 touches, 115 yards and a touchdown, making fantasy owners around the league proud that he finally had that breakout. The breakout that we called and predicted, by the way. Quick pat on the back. Jaylen Waddle goes 9 for 99. He also had that 2-point conversion, super important play. So while we still weren't hitting, kind of like going back to those couple of years beforehand with Mike McDaniel, the long touchdowns, the chunk yardage plays, we didn't necessarily see that, but it was more of those mid-range plays, those 15 to 20-yard gains. We were seeing those on a more regular basis today, but Tua was putting it all on display, making plays outside of the pocket. Early in that game, progressing through his reads when he had time to sit in the pocket. Look at option 1, option 2, option 3, coming back down to option number 4, finding that open guy, the ball placement. We talked about that as well. There were a couple of passes that weren't specifically perfectly thrown. You're not ever going to be perfect, but more often than not, when he needed to, the ball placement was perfect. Look, if you can throw for 331 and you can score 32 points, more often than not, you're going to put yourself in a position to win, and that is the position where Tua put us today. And then how about before halftime, getting us to field goal range without any timeouts on that drive? He goes 3 for 3. He has, of those 3 completions, they all went to either Tyreek or Waddle before they ended up spiking the ball, setting up Jason Sanders for a 52-yard field goal. Took a 15-13 lead into halftime. So that was absolutely masterclass without the timeouts. Love to see that. Those are huge points in this game. All right, we're almost there, Dolphins fans. We'll battle through this. But the warts in the run game continue as a team. 19 carries, 44 yards on the day. That's just 2.3 yards per carry. Somehow we got worse. Raheem Mostert was held out today, made Jeff Wilson active again. He saw 2 total touches. He got 11 yards. Devon Achane goes just 24 yards on 14 carries. Jalen Wright doesn't get much work either. 2 carries, 7 yards. The longest single run for the Dolphins today was 7 yards. We simply cannot get it going on the ground, and a huge indicator of Mike McDaniel knowing that the run game isn't there right now and cannot be relied upon right now. Look no further than the play calling in overtime. There wasn't a single run play called until we were 1st and 10 at the Jets' 13-yard line. Dolphins fans, we say every week the idea of being balanced on offense is crucial to this team, especially down the stretch. Weather's going to continue to start becoming a factor in these games. Unfortunately, running the ball is not something that we can rely on at this point in time. Now, it doesn't help today that Teron Armstead has to leave early due to injury. We'll keep an eye out on that. But it's not like we've been running that well the last month when he's been in the lineup either. So I can't really shift any blame to that specific injury. We simply got to go back to the drawing board on some of this stuff. I don't know what it is because there's been so many things I feel like to blame. We've tried all these running backs. We've tried different offensive linemen now because of some of these injuries. Nothing just seems to be working. Let's go back to the drawing board and get this figured out before we hit the road again against Cleveland and against the New York Jets again later this year. Game ball time, Dolphins fans. Like I forgot to mention earlier, actually, your game ball winner, go ahead and drop them in the comments. Mine today, it's Tua, and I already gave him a ton of props and information on him, so I'm not going to add too much here. But today just was one of those days where it felt like in these crucial moments, if you could get him the ball back, we talked about forcing a punt. We talked about getting some 3 and outs. If you could get him the ball back, whether it was at the end of regulation or if you could get the ball first in overtime, you felt deep down inside like he's clicking, he's going to get this done. And that's exactly what it did. It just felt like one of those days. So like I said, I won't go much further, but my game ball winner is quarterback 1, Tua Tagovailoa. All right, Dolphins fans, my voice is gone. I got to go celebrate a little bit more after this. What a great win, but all it does is kind of prolong the opportunity for us to continue to play these relevant and meaningful games. And that's coming up next week already against the division leading team on the road against the Houston Texans. So like I said, get subscribed if you haven't done so already. We will be back throughout the week previewing that one as well. Let's hear from you, your thoughts, your takeaways. Go ahead and drop them in the comments. I'm going to end up there. I can't go much longer, but here we are, Dolphins fans. Let's enjoy this win, and we will see you early next week. Until then, Dolphins fans, fins up.